Committee, and let's start off with a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First order of business is to adopt the agenda, so I'll entertain a motion to do that.
Motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. We have an agenda. We did not have the minutes with us today, so we will not go ahead and approve the minutes of last time. We'll do that the next time. As a report of officers, I have no real report, but I will make a couple of announcements. First one is that the next Garrett Hill Implementation Committee meeting will be October 21st, 2014 at 6:30 in this area, in this room tonight, that we're in tonight. The regular time is 6:30. We had to make a change tonight to accommodate another meeting, so we'll be back to that schedule. The next Board of Commissioners meeting, regularly scheduled, would be August 18th at 6:30. It'll be an important one that they'll be discussing the capital budget for the next 5 years, in which case we'll be talking about funding for Clemmer-Crone Park. So for those from Garrett Hill, if you can attend that meeting and show some support for that funding, that would be great. The actual next meeting of the Board of Commissioners will be July 28th at 6:30, which is really a conditional use hearing for the Villanova development for the CICD. So those that are interested in that, please come to that. And as I understand it, that will take a number of meetings, so this is the first of several. That will be the conditional use hearing. With that said, talking about the reports of the working groups, I think we can kind of forego that in the sense that our new business and unfinished business has to do with the parks, and that's our primary charge in this year. So why don't we move to new business, which is talking about a recap of the July 4th parade and the Clemmer-Crone Park event. Maybe a brief review would be in order. And Jerry, do you have some comments about that?
Yeah, the parade went off. It was a huge success. Kudos to Jill for not canceling it. It was a good call. We didn't have as much participation in it, but we had a pretty good showing. The park again was crowded this year. We didn't expect as many people, but it really did. They really made a showing down there. So the day turned out perfect. So it was a very good parade. The 65th parade.
And I think the events in the park were well received as well.
Mm-hmm. Park plays a huge part in this whole thing, and that's why it's one of the most important things to the people of Garrett Hill. It really makes a difference having that park there and being able to do what we do down there.
Great. Any other comments about the July 4th parade, Nancy or John? No? All right. I'll also add about the July 4th parade that what's great to see people who were raised in this community come back, many of them from some distances, to be part of this parade because they can still consider themselves part of this community. And for those who are here as residents right now and those who were residents, all are welcome. And not only for the Garrett Hill, but many people from Radnor come on to it, and they're all welcome and have a great time. I think we might want to move on to the next item is really talk about the Clemmer-Crone Park Master Plan. We've talked about it at the last meeting, and of course it's been recommended to the Board of Commissioners for their master plan, which I believe that they've adopted. And the Parks and Recreation Board have seen the plan, and they recommended it to the Board of Commissioners as well. The next stage of it, of course, is to secure the funding for some of these changes, and the capital budget for the next 5 years, this year amended, and the next 4 years afterwards, will be up before the Board of Commissioners at their next meeting, and on August 18th. And within it is some funding for the fully funding the Clemmer-Crone Park Master Plan improvements. Jim, just for a reference, would you mind putting up on the screen? There you go. Thank you. These are the current plans that were presented by the Kimmel-Wurgret firm, in conjunction with the residents who attended many of the meetings that they had to shape these plans. And it's important to note that they had, I think, a matter of 3 to 4 or 5 meetings locally attended out of the church, and where they had plenty of opportunity for inputs from the community members. It was well attended, and it helped shape many of the ideas that were presented here too. Essentially, if you look from left to right, the left side exactly is Conestoga Road, and looking from left to right, you're looking south to the end of the park. The improvements essentially have the following characteristics. First is the enlargement of the parking area, which you can see at the extreme left. Patty, would you mind going up to the thing there and using the mouse to kind of direct a pointer? Can you get that going? There you go. Great, thanks. There you go. That section right there would be the parking lot, which would be extended to have a number of more parking spaces to accommodate visitors who especially come for ballpark, baseball programs and other programs. On the extreme top of that, at the end of that driveway there, is one of the entrances to the park, one of the major entrances to the park, is going to be where they will move the War Memorial. That's presently right in the center of that parking lot. Give it a little bit more prominence, more space, more reverence, and they'll rededicate that spot once that's completed, and I think that'll give that a good presentation as a kind of a memorial grove right there at that section. As you enter the park, moving to the right, part of the plan includes moving back the playground area with all the playground equipment further south into the park so it's away from the street. And of course, the funding of it and the plan is to have all new playground equipment at some point. Patty's kind of generally saying that area right there, I think it's designated C, I think, or something like that, for those who can read it, which is where that will be. The other elements of the park include the where the baseball diamond is. That would be staying exactly where it was. So there's no changes to that because that's fairly well laid out. But you can see that they have a trailway that's on the eastern end of the park, and that follows all the way around the baseball diamond and along the western side around follows the creek, which gives a nice trail throughout the park all the way to the back. I know a lot of residents are surprised how deep that park goes, but it really does go way back to there. In fact, it also extends into the wetlands, which we'll get to in a minute. In the middle section, the main things is to remove the bathrooms that are there, tear them down, and replace with new tennis courts and basketball courts, and that's in that white section right there. The bathroom, by the way, will be moved to the front of the park, closer to where Patty is using the cursor, closer to where the tot lot is, and to that Rockingham Road entrance right there. While we're in Rockingham Road entrance, that kind of gives a little bit more prominence, and they plan to have some trees in there to kind of make that a nicer entrance and gateway as well. The memorial's over in the front, Jerry.
Oh, it's up here, isn't it?
No, it's over on the left-hand side. Patty, show where the memorial is once more. It's over on that side. Yeah, they moved it over there. There was one plan that did have that, but then they went back to this plan here. Yep. So if you go back to the middle again, the brown spot, the brown building, it's right exactly in the middle of the park there, a little further to the right. There you go. That will be a new pavilion, which would be used for special events and also for just to kind of cover it up for events that would be special or otherwise there for summer programs and whatnot. If the area is kind of set aside, you can see that there's, at least in terms of the plan, there's a tree-lined trail right in front of it, and that section is kind of a natural amphitheater right there. Also, a part of the plan, as you see at the bottom, a little further down, that's it right there, is an area that it could be a kind of a special events area using that portion of the ball field for a concert, focus for a concert area, that kind of thing. If you go deeper into the park, further west or further south, there they have spaces for kind of a wetlands area where we'll have a track going through that you can go ahead and experience that wetlands area, make it a part of a trail. And they also have spaces for events and other types of activities deep within the backside of the park. Part of the planning involves working with the natural grading that's there to kind of make it less marshy in the very back and get further usage of the park than we're having right now. They've also planned for areas where the inflatables maybe for the July 4th parade and events that happen in the park. They have those inflatables back there. They have plenty of room there. So some of the requirements for the planning meant that it took into consideration the sports programs, the July 4th parade and events that are there, the concerts in the park, all the parts and as well as the sports recreational activities for the tennis and the basketball courts, and of course the new bathrooms too. Any other comments that anybody wants to make about the plans? Okay, yes, John?
Well, I'm thrilled with them. I mean, especially the part about grading the area and making swales, so all the water that just stands there, collecting every mosquito in Delaware County, is going to be drained away now. So that's super. We're real excited about this plan. A lot of thought went into it, and I was thrilled that they really listened to the input of the neighbors who came out and forced to express what they want. I mean, they shot down my idea of the Ferris wheel, but we can live with that. Anyway, it's a great plan. I'm thrilled with it.
And John, I appreciate especially your opinion, because you actually your property backs into on the Rockingham side, backs into that park. So
That's
this is
right.
something that directly affects your day-to-day.
Exactly right.
Good, thanks. I think a couple of points when we're talking about the funding of it. Now, what would be part of the budget is that they would amend the budget to increase the funding that would be available for this master plan implementation this year, and then massively fund it, full funding for next year. Now, of course, they are very hopeful. They have several grants in the pipeline that they're applying for, some of which they will not know the answers to till later on in the year. But the staff wants to take opportunity to make this funding possible so they can begin work, and actually, as been recommended by our committee in the past, by the Parks and Rec Committee and others, to really do this all in one shot to make the impact rather than try to do it in minor stages and take the risk that the rest of it doesn't get filled. Some of this involves making changes that is really tough to do halfway. So that if you're either going to do it, you do it, and you do it all the way, and that makes the best sense economically as well. Otherwise, it becomes more expensive to do that. Some of the things that I've found and that I would make a point to consider the full funding of it at this point has to do with remembering and to consider the fact that Garrett Hill is one of the most populous areas in Radnor. It's the densest section, the densest ward in Radnor. And so there's a lot of people that it affects directly in that side. A lot of young families, and of course, as we mentioned, the planning for the park was well represented by the residents during these workshops that they had to talk about the plans and what was important. And I also mentioned too that the township staff, Bob Z. and the staff was generous in making available during the July 4th events some large enlarged plans, signs that were available for folks to see in various spots that we had some tents set up, and they could actually see what these plans would be like. And there was a lot of positive reaction from the folks who had come, and this was their first. Maybe they came from a distance, but this was maybe the first time they actually seen the plans. But a lot of positive reactions to how the plans turned out. I think one other aspect to this that we saw on the chart, the picture, was that there's a lot of trails in this park, formal trails, and so the master plan has a large trail component to it. And I know as with the open space and greenways network that the township is considering, there is some concern because Garrett Hill is still a little bit cut off from the connectivity to some of these trails that are being planned within Radnor. One of the major connecting points would be that SEPTA rails with trails right away on the Route 100 line, and that's up in the air. We're not sure if that'll happen to come to pass or not. And without that kind of connection to the Radnor Trail, Garrett Hill area is still kind of cut off accessibly to some of those areas down on Ardrossan and also whatever others are being planned. So it's important to remember that rather than trying to get access to some of those other places, here we have an opportunity to have a kind of a very nice trail section right here within their neighborhoods. So this actually becomes a good trail section on its own. And I think at the end, the last point to consider is that this is a very good bang for the buck. You've got a community park that's, it's a playground, it's for the youth to use, and all the residents, not only in Garrett Hill, but other areas. It's a destination park. You have the baseball program, other activities, basketball, tennis, use of all residents. You have educational projects, some of which, Nancy, you're familiar with, whether it be the rain garden or the wetlands projects that you guys have been working on, and the stormwater demonstration projects. So there's some educational aspects that everybody can be exposed to and use it. It's an event park, because you got the July 4th parade as part of that. You get summer concert programs. I know in 1 year or 2 years, we've hosted the extravaganza portion of the township. And there are other opportunities for those kind of events as well. And as I just mentioned, the trail park, it's a ready-made venue for providing recreation and health benefits to the immediate residents and to any others who are able to come to it. So I think this renovation, this plan is more than just new bathrooms, which has always been the rallying cry from the very start. But it's an upgrade that's very, very badly needed after 50 years of uses of this park.
Yeah, Phil, I would just add that I feel like the architect, Kimmel Rogret, was very careful and effective at planning around the environmental features and the educational features that we've developed, the stream bank buffer, the rain garden, the plantings that Radnor Conservancy put in. The trees are doing very well, and I feel like the firm was very sensitive and will enhance those. The plan will enhance all the features that we've started to develop.
Good, a good point, Nancy. Thanks for making that. Any other comments about the park and the master plan that has been presented and the funding of it?
One comment is that I'm thrilled that they're going to be using that whole section behind the stream that right now is not have any access to it all. So that's what, about 10% of the park, I guess, back there that hasn't even been used. So that's going to be a treat.
That enlarges the usability factor of the park to be able to do that. So I think that, yeah, they're right. That's a great thing. All right. Well, what I'd like to do is entertain a motion that expresses our support for full funding of this, that we can carry to the Board of Commissioners at the Board of Commissioners meeting in August, when they'll be talking about this funding. And you have before you a proposed motion. Nancy, you're the secretary. Perhaps you might read it, and we can have some discussion on it, and if so be it, then at least get a sense of our committee as to whether we want to make that motion forward.
Okay, the motion reads, the Garrett Hill Implementation Committee expresses our support and requests the Radnor Board of Commissioners support full funding of the implementation of the Clem-McCrone Park Master Plan as presented in the 5-year capital program 2014 amended to 2019, version 3. I guess it was approved July 14, 2014.
Proposed at that
Proposed
point.
it.
Proposed at that point. Great.
Sorry.
That's okay. Any discussion on that motion?
I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, this has been a long time coming, so I say we move ahead. I love the idea of full funding to get it done right away, as opposed to some kind of painful, extenuating process. Get it done so we can enjoy it. And when's it supposed to be finished up? All things go well.
That depends on the funding, John.
Oh, it's the money again.
It's the money. Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Exactly.
Did they say it was like a year-long project?
If it was fully funded and it was ready to go, it would take a year to do.
Yeah,
this,
I think everyone involved agrees that if you could really muster the resources and go at it and get it done, it would be better. When things extend over many years, they tend to get lost. We know that.
And of all things, the mantra would be to get it done by July 4th, right, Jerry? That's right. Good. All right. Good. Any other discussion on that motion? Is there any public participation about it?
Well, I support wholeheartedly the motion. I'm Patty Barker, Chair of the Garrett Hill Coalition. I was actually hoping, after you make the motion and second it and vote it, that I wanted to read the letter that I sent out to the Garrett Hill Coalition email list, asking for community support at this upcoming August 18th meeting, which I think would be a nice build on the GHIC's motion. So once you do that.
Well, if you want to
it's,
wait, we'll do it.
Will you do it? I'll
Yes.
stand right here while you do it,
Okay.
and then I'll read my letter.
Good. Well, that being the case, we'll call the vote. All those in favor of this motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I do want to point out who made the motion and seconded it. You
Oh.
didn't actually do that.
All right, then please, let's do it. Who would like to make the motion? You made it, right?
I made the motion.
She made the motion.
I
Do you have a
second the motion.
Second, okay.
Okay.
Again, we'll do it again. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, it's double approved.
That's right. Approved twice.
There you go.
So this is a letter I sent out last week when this item was on the agenda for last night's BOC meeting. Our township manager, Bob Zinkowski, plans to ask the board for a budgetary amendment that would allocate $409,000 to cover the design construction costs proposed by Kimmel Brugret during the Clem-McCrone Park master planning process. This would pay for the design plan details to bring the Clem-McCrone Park master plan to fruition. If this amendment is approved by the board, Bob and Radnor staff would then ask for a specific monetary allocation during the 2015 budget process that would fund the Clem-McCrone plans in their entirety, and that's the $1.3 million that Phil spoke about earlier. This project is an opportunity to enhance, improve, and preserve the natural and man-made assets in our well-loved park. Our park is one of the most utilized parks in Radnor Township. It's a widely used community gathering place and offers a variety of uses and activities, not the least of which is our annual 4th of July parade. Bob Z. has specifically asked for a show of community support at this upcoming August 18th Board of Commissioner meeting. Please consider coming out to show that Garrett Hill cares about its park. It's time for our Garrett Hill community to be put at the top of the list. You have an opportunity to make that happen by showing up on Monday evening, August 18th at 6:30 p.m. I do want to say that they promised, after we sat for 4 hours last night, and they tabled this particular agenda item, that they would make sure it would be on the agenda earlier on Monday, August 18th. So I will send out a follow-up email to remind everybody, since obviously it's a month away. But thank you for your consideration. Please attend and please spread the word, and thank you all for your service. And I also would hope that if this is put through, it would be done before the 4th of July, which, when you think about it, is going to be kind of tough. So keep our fingers crossed. And as Phil said, there are 2 grants, the DCNR and the DCED, which, if we receive the grant money, would get us almost $750,000 towards that $1.3 million goal, which would make it that much less that Radnor has to come up with. So, and I do want to say a big thank you to Bob Z., Steve Norsini, and Tammy Cohn, because they really spearheaded this whole thing. As Phil alluded to earlier, we really were just hoping for a bathroom, which has been on the budget back burner for years. So the more Garrett Hillians come out and tell the board what they want, the more likely we are to get this money. We've done it before. We can do it again. Thanks.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Patty. And I think we want to also express our thanks to Bob Z., Township staff, Steve Norsini, Tammy Cohen, Jen DeStefano, for their work in preparing the grant proposals, and also for spearheading the Kimmel Brugret planning process and making sure that that happens, because that was the beginning of all of this, to do a very good job. I know what this is a perfect example of how you can talk about making park improvements and doing it upright, to get a real formal plan with community input and have something that not just makes a little spot fixes here, but actually transforms it into something that's far greater than just a few parts of that may be changed. And if we can do that, that's a good example on how Radnor really is one of some of the best things on the main line. And we thank them for their efforts to it. Also reminding that any monies that we do get as grants offsets part of the budget, but I think by making a statement of fully funding it in the budget, it says to those grant makers that we're serious about getting this park done. and also it makes the planning to go forward a lot more easier. So that's why we support it. All right. Is there any more new business at this moment? I would like to add one more piece of new business, and that's to welcome our newest member, John Child, who is on my left. John, raise your hand. John's a long-term resident of Garrett Hill and has been active in other aspects of Garrett Hill life, the parade and other aspects of it. And we're welcome to have him here, especially since he does live right on the edge of the park there, and so he's a prime example of someone who is an immediate neighbor who supports this project, and as many others do. John, welcome,
Thank you, Phil.
and thank you for your service on this
You're
committee.
welcome.
You're welcome. Thanks. All right, Jerry, would you like to make a note here, comment?
No comment. Oh, do you want me to? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.